Hi, and welcome to another episode of Redeeming Truth. We're coming to you from the auditorium here at Redeemer Bible Church and excited to talk about a few things related to COVID-19, the coronavirus that's happening right now around our world. I'm here with John, Dale, and Kyle, all pastors here at the church. And the big question is, how do we selflessly care for others in the midst of COVID-19 while still caring for ourselves? In other words, is it helpful to go and give everyone all your toilet paper, seriously, and laundry detergent and bleach, and give all your food away, but then not have anything for your family? Are we called to selflessly care for others at the expense of ourselves? Great verse to kind of jump off of here, Proverbs 21:13. That would be about the poor. He who turns a blind eye or ignores the poor, he himself will be ignored, or his cry will be ignored. I think of Philippians 2. I'll turn to it real quick and talk briefly here. But Philippians 2, verse 3, do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Of course, talking about the Christ-like example of our Lord. So the question then is, guys, how do we love others and then not leave our own families high and dry? What's the balance for a Christian? Are there some counterintuitive things we should be thinking through with social distancing? And what is love in the midst of COVID-19? Might be different than the way we would normally define it. So speak to that and give people perhaps a sense of relief if they're feeling guilty, like, man, I got to do more. Or if they're feeling selfish, I've got all the toilet paper at my house and ain't nobody going to get it. So speak to that.
Yeah, I would just start by saying that whether or not you went to the stores and bought 8 rolls or 8 packages of toilet paper before the limit was to one person, or whether you don't have any of it, there is always something that we can do to help other people. And it's going to really start by getting to know your neighbors. It's going to really start by finding out what's going on with them and what do they need. And so you may not be able to meet every need that your neighbor has, but you may be able to do something. And so it is imperative at this time that Christians are thinking outside of the walls of their own homes and thinking, how can I be a blessing to my neighbors? And so that might mean if you're going right now to the store, maybe you do get an extra bag of ground beef so that you could give it to your neighbor. Or you get a couple extra things of wipes for babies, and you leave it on the doorstep of that family that has 4 kids, And so be thinking when you're at the stores, when you're driving around, how can I be a blessing to other people?
That's really good. I heard of a family just recently, a good friend of ours in a different state has been dropping off detergents and bleach on doorsteps in their neighborhood, trying to get them to the homes of elderly. I want to speak to that too, with you, Pastor Dale. The idea that I think normally we would have right now is, man, get your gloves on, your mask on, and let's go to the senior citizens' home, and let's get out in the community, and let's throw ourselves at people as Christians, because we want to be the church, and we want to be the hands and feet of Christ. In that regard, is it not as loving, perhaps, right now, to just launch ourselves out there into every forum? What are the ways to use wisdom and how to love the elderly, perhaps even by doing things for them at a distance?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is you want to honor what the government is asking us to do right now. So here in Arizona, and I think throughout the country, retirement homes and facilities like that are actually locking their doors, where even family members can't come visit. Yeah. So you want to work within the constraints of what your community is doing, but also help comes in different forms. Right. I can be a help to you by simply praying for you. I can be a help by supporting your support. So there's opportunities for us as Christians to open our eyes and look to see how we can come alongside. Like John just said, we don't have to solve all the needs, but we can have our eyes open to help with some of the needs, and even going a ring lower and helping the supporters. So even looking at first responders right now, looking at police officers, firemen, nurses, doctors, how can we help support them in this time as they're on the front lines?
Love that. Really love that. Kyle, speak to this as we finish out pastorally. If the lockdown gets tighter in different states and quarantines are more heavily imposed and restricted, and you're at home, you've got Jackie and you got Darby, and you're there, what are some of the practical ways as a pastor that you would reach out to people and maybe speak to other leaders? What are some ways that we can do that and be shepherds stuck in our homes?
Yeah, I mean, we live in a very unique time in human history where we can connect to people without being in the same room, right? This may be, this in fact is a very different scenario than it would have been for Martin Luther or for John Calvin. Being in the age of modern digital technology, we can communicate through our phones, we can communicate through Google Hangouts, through email, through any of those kind of ways. So, being wise to think first of all of other people, right? We're in the midst of a community and a nation right now that is concerned with making sure that we are cared for first, which in essence is fine. There's some wisdom to that, but we want to make sure that we're reaching out to those people who may not be in the same situation as us, right? We assume, okay, I've got enough supplies, I have enough stuff, so everybody else must as well. And a pastoral thing or even just a good brotherly thing to do for other people is to assume maybe somebody else is not in the same situation. So let me call them, let me reach out to them, being cautious not to overstep and maybe cross a quarantine barrier, but at least to be available for them, to pray for them. And then as pastors to be constantly in the Word, providing wisdom, providing a nudge of shepherding towards trust in the Lord in all things throughout this.
That's really good. Something from each of you guys just rings really, really loudly. Obviously the heart there, Kyle, and what you're saying, Dale, the idea of first responders. Christine and I have a first responder on our street just a few doors down, and I'm already thinking of him and their family. And then, John, the idea of just even getting to know our neighbors. In today's world, there's a lot of people that don't even know their neighbors. And so there's something there for everyone to do. Maybe a next step for you is somewhere in this episode, and you can apply that to your own life. At the same time, I do believe what Dale said is true. Romans 13:1, we submit to governing authorities. We respect them. As Christians, we're not called to be social revolutionaries. We're spiritual revolutionaries. We want to see lives transformed. But the idea that we need to rebel or get a chip on our shoulder or even try to work around what the government is saying we should do is ill-advised. We need to be respectful, outstanding citizens. And to be honest, one of the ways to really reach and love your neighbors is to have their trust. And I don't know about you, but if I was not a believer and I saw Christians going around the government and I'm in fear and anxiety, worried about the health of my home, and the Christians are acting like a bunch of zealot social revolutionaries working around systems, I don't really want their message. I don't trust their methods. And sorry, they're an endangerment to my family at that point. And so try to think like the world in that sense and reach in with the gospel. Thankful for you guys, your wisdom. Love you very much. And I'm grateful for what you can offer people here at our church and around. So we'll come back with more episodes, have more insight for you in the near future. God bless you and stay safe.